The following is a video for the replacement of the front shocks for a 1964 Lincoln Continental. With jack stands and lift, safely lift the car prior to wheel removal. Quick shot of some of the tools required. Next, remove the two bolts that hold the top portion of the shock absorber in place. Then, remove the two bottom bolts that hold the bottom section of the shock absorber in place. With a second jack and jack stand safely in place, use a block of wood and this second jack to compress the spring to be able to easily pull out the shock absorber after all the bolts have been removed. Now that the coil spring has been compressed, it's easy to remove the eye stud bracket for the removal of the shock absorber. In my case, since the bottom bolt threads were stripped, I had to drill them out so that I could install larger bolts to support the shock absorber. Here's a quick shot of the bolts that I am using. In a previous repair, I had tried to tap out the holes and they worked for a while, but eventually they failed, which is why I opted for this approach, simply putting the bolts in from the opposing end. When you insert the new shock absorber, it's helpful to ensure that the alignment of the bottom tabs and the upper eye holes align with how they will be bolted in. After the bottom bolts are in place, you can then start working on installing the upper bolts. To finalize the installation of the upper eye stud bracket, I used the jack to further compress the coil spring so that all I had to do was simply press it through the hole. Another tip is to tighten the stud nut so that it pulls the eye stud bracket over the bolt hole for ease of installation. It may be helpful to use a screwdriver to position the eye stud bracket for the bolt installation. Now that the two upper bolts are in place, tighten them down securely. Securely tighten the bottom bolts. Disclaimer, by no means am I an expert, simply sharing what I've learned with others. Be sure to be safe and tighten bolts to factory specifications.